Welcome for part 3 of Book Day concerning Future Men, written by Doug Wilson. We're here with Tim. I'm David, so welcome if you haven't been here before. Don't worry if you've missed the other ones, because the thoughts of this one will be pretty well self-contained, because we read a quote from the book and then we talk about whatever comes to our minds about the book. So Future Men is a book about parenting, particularly parenting boys. I've got about 5 notes left. Tim, I don't think he has any notes left because he didn't get this far in the book. Is that correct, Tim?
No comment.
No, we finished this book together a while back, actually, and we're just getting together to talk about it now. So without further ado, my first note is on 124.
Mine is on 131, so you're good.
Okay. And hopefully we'll get to, we've alluded to it previously twice, and hopefully we'll touch on it today, is that occurrence where one of the kids in the church had pointed a plastic gun at somebody, and how Doug Wilson suggests dealing with something like that, because he recommends you let your little boys play with sticks and toy guns and whatnot. And yet, what do you do when your little kid comes up to
their little sister?
Well, or grandma.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, bang, 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 grandma. and how to handle that. And he gives some good advice for that. So we've alluded to it twice. Hopefully we'll get to it today. Okay.
That happened to me before.
Sure. Yep. Okay. So first note is on page 124. The name of this one is Adulting in a Parenting Book. Adulting in a Parenting Book. So I think it's going to be, it's on the top of the page, first actual paragraph. And it's going to be about how adults interact with each other in this one. So it says, the second kind of problem is more difficult. This is problems, I think, with other people. This is where another family in your church wants to get your kids together, but for various reasons you're uncomfortable with it. Perhaps it is their laxity in discipline or carelessness in entertainment standards. So this is a pretty practical question. Like, somebody else has a different entertainment standards. Somebody else's maybe has different discipline standards than you, but they want your kids to get together. What do? Well, let's see what he does, I guess. So for whatever reason, you have reason to believe that friendship between your kids and theirs will not be spiritually healthy for your kids. So what do? The fear is that if you say why you do not wish to arrange a friendship between your kids, you will give offense. This is quite possible. At the same time, this is why we need to live together in covenant community, or in a New Testament church. While you may not wish for your son to be friends with their son, at least you can play the role of a biblical friend to them. And this means telling them honestly where the difficulty lies. This may cause problems, but gracious honesty is still best. Perhaps they will listen, and you may be a great help to them.
I think that's great.
Yeah, and that's why I called the note Adulting in a Parenting Book, because that's what adults should do with each other.
Yeah, you mean like be honest with each other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You should be able to say, Sally Sue, I don't want our kids to hang out together because you run your house like a circus, and that's not good.
Yeah.
Saying it maybe with some more grace than that, which means maybe stronger than that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or it could be that you're wrong in what they're doing, or how you perceive it, or something.
Yep, sure.
And then they can tell you where you're wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not the point that he makes, but
No.
it still is another good thing about
That's
it.
valid. And it wouldn't have occurred to me, because when is somebody going to be like,
when am I ever wrong?
No, that really is a valid point. Where, like, if you see a family and they have, it really is true. Somebody could look at our families and be like, you let your kids watch The Lord of the Rings?
Oh, yeah.
Or you let your kids do X, Y, Z? Or or you use real wine in the Lord's Supper.
Oh, yeah.
It could be any of those things, and they would be like, canceled, which is sort of the popular thing to do. Like, cancel everything. Oh, you believe this? You believe that? You believe that? And it really might be a time where you open yourself up to be corrected. I'm really glad you brought that up, because I wouldn't have thought. I really mean I wouldn't have thought of that, but it's true. Like,
yeah,
you might be wrong, and maybe there is discipline, or maybe there's discipline issues, and maybe they are working through them. You know, it really could be. Maybe they are working through it, and you just jumping in and being like, hey, I don't want our kids to be together. And they can be like, I'm sorry. And then genuinely like say, no, I'm trying to work on it or whatever though, you know. Or the scenario that he's talking about is you point it out to them and they go, oh yeah, I'm screwing it up.
Yeah, yeah. And so you're being a help to them in this case, yeah. It is called adulting while parenting?
Adulting. Well, yeah, the note's called adulting in a parenting book.
Okay.
Because it's like, here's a book about raising boys, but here's like this little blurb of advice about just living with other people. You know, like, just talk to them. Just say, hey, stop screwing it up. My next one's on the next page.
Oh, man.
Oh, it's short though.
Oh, good.
Oh, this.
Don't beat me.
And so I have, until then, hit the books.
That's
the note. Until then, hit the books. So it's in the third paragraph, the first paragraph under frames for fighting. And it's in the middle of that paragraph, it says, but until the time. So it's like around here somewhere.
Okay, I see it.
But until the time when men will learn war no more, they must still learn it. So there will be a time, we've talked about this before, where there will be a time when swords are beat into plowshares and no more will we make instruments of war and whatnot. But until then, go make a sword or whatever.
Yeah.
Until then, get a sword and you're hanging on the wall, maybe 7 of them.
Yeah, we're not there now.
Right, yeah. And so he says, so in the first sentence of this paragraph is the Christian faith is not pacifistic. So I think it's, this is this is a chapter on sports. And so he's talking about conflict in sports being healthy. And so then learning the strategies of teams and sportsmanship and all that can be good for kids. That's what this chapter is about.
That makes sense. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So until the time when we will learn war. I like how that flows. Until the time when we will learn war no more, we must still learn it. Like, that's good.
Yeah, it is.
And it's a hopeful phrase, too. There's so much packed into it. Because, it acknowledges there's going to be a time when no more. But it's not now. There will be a day. Not this day. Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Because it really does. It has the present and the future. It's good.
Yeah, it is good.
The next one is the war crimes one.
Oh, good. This one's exciting.
Is that the name of yours? Did you call it war crimes?
Yeah.
So did I. That's what it's called. It's called war crimes. So mine starts on page 130, though. You said.
Okay, yeah, mine starts on 131. Probably the reason why I called it war crime is because he calls it war crime.
Yeah.
Stick to originality.
Spoiler alert. Tim's like, this one shall be called, and then you just write out the whole sentence.
Doesn't it sound fancy?
Okay. I start here.
Actually, mine does start on 130.
Oh, wait, did you start? Oh, you started after this, one sentence after I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I start in the third actual paragraph on the page, in the middle of the paragraph where it says, among the essential things, sort of favoring the end of the paragraph first, whatever. So I'll read half of it, and then you start reading on 131. How's that sound?
All right, that sounds great.
The first sentence there.
All right.
Among the essential things that boys must learn here are honor and restraint. They should only learn what they need to learn, and they should not learn that which they must reject later. This means that a boy who is playing with a toy gun should be trained to never use it more freely simply because it is not real. A small boy who is playing war with his brothers should be pointing and blasting away with the best of them. Oh yeah, now it's you.
Oh, okay. But if a lady from the church comes over to visit the young boy's mother and is standing in the foyer, and the boy comes up and tries to blow her away, the young warrior's mother should haul him off to the bedroom to be tried for war crimes. The visitor was a civilian and non-combatant, and mother should and mother should be schooled in principles of just war theory, and she should enforce the rules.
Yeah, so this is really good. So we let the kids play with toy guns, sticks for swords, and whatever. And I've said this to my kids lots of times before reading this, although this helped me see why I said it. But like whenever the kids would like grab one of their toy guns or whatever and would be like, ah, ah, and point it around, I'd always say, only point it at the bad guys. That was sort of my, like, the instinct that I had inside of me. Like, only point it at the bad guys, kids. And like, hey, if I'm a bad guy, come at me or whatever. Just like he says, he should be blasting away with the best of them or whatever. But even when they're playing, when the boys are playing, like, there should be like, these are the enemies and these are the good guys. Or maybe we think they're the bad guys, or maybe we're just evil. We're trying to take over their land, whatever. And then saying, but when the church lady comes over, she's a non-combatant. She's a civilian. Don't point your gun at her, even if it's a toy gun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's helpful. I never actually ever thought of that before.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, it's something that they will have to unlearn later. Like,
oh, sure.
When they have a real gun, when you give them their first 22 or their first BB gun, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
You don't want them to be aiming it at everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we would teach them at that time not to, but it's much better if you teach them earlier.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yep. So with the toy guns, our rule is only point them at the bad guys.
Yeah, that's a good rule.
And then there was something else about this that I liked. Oh, well, how the mom is aware of these principles or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And how she, like...
she says that she knows just war theory or whatever.
Yeah. Hauls them off to the bedroom.
Yep. Yeah, I do like it. And it's simple and it's easy. Oh, yeah, and the main point from it is teaching them restraint.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about how don't just be wild with whatever. And you can see, some kids they've got the wildness in their eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Which can be okay. You want, particularly boys, remember we talked about how like a lot of people's idea of a good boy is really a boy that's castrated or a girl. So when you see a boy and he's got the wild in his eyes, we don't want to necessarily put the fire out.
Yeah.
We just want to teach him like to restrain.
Yeah. To not go all out wild crazy.
Yeah, like unleash the beast in these areas, but not these areas.
Yeah.
And that's the restraint. I like that. That's good.
That is good. I liked it too. I thought it was great. Mm-hmm. I had never thought of that before until I read this. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the principle of knowing how to handle a gun and restraint in general, it all ties in. It's complicated, really, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
My next one's on 141.
You really were sleeping, weren't you?
Where did you?
Mine is on 138, so it's not actually that much further. I just have to tease you.
Whatever. How many did I have before you?
Let's not talk about that.
Oh, I think we should talk about it.
Okay, mine is called heart problem. Probably because it says heart somewhere.
Interesting.
It's the last partial paragraph where it starts with because the context of this passage.
Got it.
And I think this is the chapter Girls and Sex. That's the chapter.
Oh, okay.
That's to help
to orient it.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because the context of this passage is the teaching about idolatry and on one side and then divorce on the other, I believe that Christ is alluding to the fact that self-castration is to be preferred to the wrath of God. But the problem here is that such self-mutilation will not work to restrain sin. Neither will asceticism. But if it would, then such action would be preferable to the judgment. So I think he's referring to
the passage in Matthew where he's like, cut your members off if they cause you to sin or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, and it didn't say heart problem in there. So, so this is alluding to the he's basically just confirming what Jesus said when he said it's better to. Oh no, sorry.
Heart problem.
Yeah, it's a heart problem, not necessarily. If you're having marital issues or you're in adultery, or if you have addictions to porn or something like that, castrating yourself isn't necessarily dealing with the problem. Right. It's restraining that particular, I don't know how it works.
Part of you or whatever.
Yeah,
it is, sure.
But it's not dealing with the heart of the issue, which is your own sinful inclination to do evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the lust issue in the text is what Wilson is pointing out is if you had to choose between castrating yourself and cutting off both your arms and both your legs and not suffering the wrath of God, then that's what you should do. The problem is that, first of all, we won't do that or whatever. And Jesus' point isn't to get us to do that. Mm-hmm. But the point is, you should take it with that amount of seriousness. Like, I'd rather take out a screwdriver and gouge both my eyes out than suffer the wrath of God, which is the sort of serious intensity that I should pursue the mortification of my lusts and the putting to death of my flesh. I should be willing to suffer that. And if I am willing to suffer that, well, then certainly I'm willing to cancel the internet if it's a problem. If I'm willing to go to the extent to make war on my flesh, to cut off the flesh in my physical flesh, well, then how much more should I be willing to just be like, unplug the laptop, put it in a cupboard, tell your wife to hide it. I don't know. And those aren't, this is a significant thing. And now even with those things, someone can be like, yeah, but you're still not fixing the problem. Mm-hmm. But the very fact that you're willing to take the steps to cancel the internet, the fact that you're willing to tell your wife, take the computer away, that's not going to fix the problem, but it is evidence that you're fighting the problem. Those things won't change your heart. But the fact that you're taking those steps show that your heart is changing about it. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? I remember we talked about the work a while ago because some people look at this and be like, well, if I cancel the internet, that's not going to change my heart. If I tell my wife to hide the computer, that's not going to change my heart. It's like, no, it's not. But those things are evidences that you're really making war on it, mm-hmm. that your heart is fighting against it. What are you doing right now? A whole lot of nothing or whatever? Yeah, that's a key distinction, I think, because I do think a lot of people will say, well, I could do all those external things, but that's not going to change my heart. And I would agree.
So basically using that as an excuse not to change anything?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And any sort of restraint is, or any sort of extra steps it takes to do that mm-hmm. would be helpful.
Sure. Yeah, and so you might think, well, why cancel the internet if you can do this? Or why hide the computer if you have access in this way? Like, if you're increasing the levels of resistance to overcome, to whatever. Like the guy who put his popcorn in the garage or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like he couldn't. So there was a story of a man who went and wanted to stop eating popcorn or something, so he just put his popcorn in the garage. But if he really wanted it, he could get it. The only thing that putting it in the garage did is increase the friction, increase the resistance, so he would do it less.
Yeah.
And so if you make it difficult for your flesh, it's lazy a lot of times. Right?
Yeah.
So if you increase the resistance, it can help you. And that is such a good point. I hope I can remember that, because really, when I first heard the argument of somebody saying, well, if I do all that, it's not going to change my heart, I was sort of like, yeah, I know it won't, but I didn't know what to say. But I wish I would have known then to be like, yeah, but if you are willing to do that, it's evidence that your heart is changed.
Yeah.
That it is serious about knocking it off, putting this lust to death or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I remember you mentioning that at work one time.
Mm-hmm. Such a great thought.
Yeah, it is. My next one's not till 149, so you're up.
Oh.
Did you say 141?
141, yep. On the top of page 141, it's called Ever on Guard. And it's the second sentence on the page. It says, pastors soon learn not to be surprised at the sexual messes that people can create. And one important lesson from this is never to assume that it can't happen here. The here in question might be this particular family, this particular church, this particular community, etc. We've talked about this before. But when it comes to sex, wherever people live, the combustible materials are always present. And so we've talked about like standards that I have like with my kids, and how I basically have rules about how they spend time with the grandparents. Okay, so you know that it's my rule that none of my daughters can be with any man alone. And it doesn't matter if it's who it is, other than me, obviously.
Uh-huh.
But like grandparents or anybody, they can't be with them alone. And it might upset people or confuse other people when, obviously, you're familiar with the experiential reasons why I make that decision. But here he's sort of pointing out, if you're thinking, and I've pointed it out to you too, like thinking, well, that sort of thing, sexual abuse or whatever, won't happen here. It won't happen to my kids. It won't happen, in my family. It won't happen, whatever, when you're just being naive or whatever.
Yeah.
And so taking those things seriously, and this was just ever on guard. This was the name of the note. So just being always ever on guard, that like those types of things, and sexual sin, whether it be in a home, a family, a congregation, a workplace, whatever, that to say it can't happen here is dumb.
That's
it's a
what
recipe
usually
for failure.
happens.
Yeah.
Is when you think that you're all safe and you don't got to worry about it, and then that's when it is most likely to happen.
Yeah, and that's because you let your guard down. Like, when are you gonna fail? Well, it's when you weren't expecting to fail.
Yeah.
Like, when are you gonna fall through the ice when you're walking on the lake? It's when you're like, oh, it's totally fine. There's no thing.
Pride cometh before the fall.
Right, exactly. But if like the person who's walking but carefully or circumspectly, they'll be okay, But it's the person who's willing to let their guard down that is gonna have problems.
Yeah.
162. And actually 162 is my last one.
Oh, I have two more. 149 and then 155.
Great.
So we'll go to 149 then. No, I was not sleeping when I read these. My heading for it is, do not deny the truth of the matter. Do not deny the truth of the matter. And it's in the paragraph, avoidable and laudable women. And it's down closer to the last half of the paragraph, and it starts with this.
Do you know what laudable means?
No, tell me.
I only know it because my kids had to learn it. And laudo, in Latin, like it's spelled like this, L-A-U or whatever, means to praise.
Oh.
So it's saying avoidable and praiseworthy.
Oh, okay, that's good. I'm glad you mentioned that, because in my head, I was thinking a loud, annoying woman.
Yep, laudable.
I'm going to actually write that
Sure.
above it so that I don't forget it, and if I ever read this book again.
So like if somebody says like concerning God, laud him all ye peoples or something, they're basically saying like worship God.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so it starts with this, this must be seen. Do you got it?
Was it toward the end you said?
Yeah, it's
Okay, yeah, I got it now.
oh yeah.
This
I forgot you have.
Oh, sure. This one is a little bit different. Sure.
Yeah. Okay, so this must be seen by obedient faith, because an immortal woman... Immoral. Glad you caught that, because I was like,
it's a little
immortal?
bit different than immortal.
Okay, I'm going to restart that.
Okay.
This must be seen by obedient faith, because immoral women looks good. Immoral woman looks good and sounds good and promises to feel good. Nothing is accomplished by Christians denying the obvious. But the Bible teaches that when all is said and done, adultery is a form of suicide. Whoever commits adultery with a woman lacks understanding. He who does so destroys his own soul. So, the truth of the matter. Destroy your own soul. I think this is why I picked it. Because, let me reorient myself.
Sure. I think in the first part it talks about how the immoral woman, like, she speaks good and she looks like she's got everything together, and really her steps take hold on hell and the dead go there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just saying, like, if you deny that she looks like she's got things together and she looks appealing and probably even would provide a man with a good time, the good time is still temporary, but denying that he would have a good time,
oh yeah,
like you're not doing him any favors or whatever, when he knows, like my flesh would enjoy that or whatever.
Yeah.
But like to realize, to the damnation of your soul.
Yeah. I think what went through my mind when I read this first, and why I marked it, is because of how we talked about just a few minutes ago about how you wouldn't necessarily expect it. No. Sorry, my brain is a little bit scrambled.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
How if it can happen, or if we have all the combustible materials, and so denying that it's a possibility is foolish. And I think that's why I chose this, is because
it doesn't come to you as like the harlot doesn't come to you wearing like devil horns with a pitchfork.
She doesn't. Yeah, she might not be the prostitute on the side of the road.
Sure,
she might actually be. More often,
nice.
I'm guessing nice. Yeah, otherwise you wouldn't go out with her or whatever.
Yep.
But don't deny that it might be a great time, but it's sin.
Yeah,
and
it says the Bible teaches when all is said and done that it's a form of suicide.
Yeah. So the truth of the matter is, might sound good, might feel good. In reality, it's suicide.
Yep. 162 is my next one. Is this your last one? The next
155 is my last one.
Looks like we're going to end on a high note.
on a high note?
Yep.
No hanging here, please. I thought we did pretty good. I didn't think you needed to bring in the hanging. It's not that depressing.
Get going.
Okay, so my note for this one is get to the root of the issue. And it's the last paragraph on the page. Last partial paragraph?
Okay,
Full paragraph?
sure. Starts with of course.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have a side note on it saying table discussions are a good idea. Table discussions are a good idea.
Yep, I think so. Table. Oh, you're talking about like maybe the supper table.
Yeah. Getting to the root of the issue. Of course, biblical parents must refuse to be tyrannized by the demands and dictates of cool. But they must be prepared to do more than simply make contrary shopping choices. The Bible requires that parents instruct their children in the art of biblical thinking. This is an important topic for dinner table discussion. Okay, so this is a topic, this is a chapter on contempt for the cool. So I'm guessing it's Douglas Wilson talking about how your kids like to be cool.
Yeah, sure.
And so you got to make sure it's not the wrong kind of cool.
Yeah, so they're exposed to all kind of temptations for whatever.
Yeah. And so I'm trying. So the reason why I called it get to the root of the matter is because, and then table discussions are a good idea, is because that's when families can talk freely is
sure.
around the dinner table. They can talk freely other times, but table discussions aren't really a big thing in our home as of yet, and that's because our children are really small.
Oh, sure.
We can have table discussions between my wife and I.
Goo boo goo boo goo boo goo boo boo goo boo goo boo. And how are you, kids?
That's awesome.
Let's move on.
Moving on. Gideon does talk a lot. That's
true.
He talks a lot at the table.
Yep. Hope's talking a lot more too. Like, she can go loads. Like, my wife posted a video the other day where she was talking to herself building this little tower of bricks, and she's like, Mommy, what do you think of this tower that I built? And then she like did the mommy voice. She's like, oh, that looks very good. Like, she was funny, like just playing with herself. It's funny. But yeah, she does talk like a lot. It's fun. It's just a lot of fun.
It is fun. What's fun about it is they say things that you don't expect from them.
Yeah.
It shows how their brain is developing and now they're starting to get smart. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. They really do say things and you're like, I didn't even know you could think that thing.
Yeah.
Let alone express a thought for that thing.
Yeah. Refusing to be tyrannized by the demands of the dictates of cool.
So just talking through, like, is such a thing cool? Maybe it's cool.
Oh,
is it good?
Yeah.
It's cool to wear my britches down to where you can see my boxers.
Is it good?
Is it good? Maybe it's not cool.
So that was my last one.
162. Oh, I like this one. I've talked about this a couple times at work. It's about pop culture.
Oh, okay, cool.
This is the one about.
I remember talking about pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
What is it? 162.
Yep, and it's called "What Culture Is For," and pop culture isn't.
Oh yeah, I remember. I like this section.
Yeah, I went on a walk with my wife and we talked about this. I've got 2 notes, so we'll read them both.
Okay.
I'll guide you. Second paragraph starts with "Pop culture is." Oh, it's the third paragraph on your page.
Okay, I see it.
Pop culture is a disposable culture for those who agree to consume it. But because cultures are meant to be handed down to subsequent generations, because cultures are meant to be preserved, a consumable culture is really an anti-culture. This is where pop culture and rebellious high culture reveal their similarity. No one will hand down the works of this century's rebellious high art and architecture because it is all so mud fence ugly. So he's like, modern art and modern architecture. Nobody's going to pass that along and be like, here's my splattered canvas. It's beautiful. You know, like people won't do that. Just like with pulp culture, people won't pass it on because it's not pass alongable or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll keep going. It's both ugly. And no one will hand down pulp culture as an inheritance either. And to my great-grandson, Timothy McMillan, I bequeath all of my Spice Girls CDs. Is that what yours says? I'm curious if that has been updated. Oh, yep, it is right here. Pulp culture was all eaten at the time, and there isn't any left, for which the gourmands of future generations will be most grateful. And so this is saying, like, pop culture is no culture. Oh, yeah, I think I remember talking to you about, like, son, here's my Game Boy. Right? It's not...
Dad, I got the newest model.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like, it's not pass-alongable or whatever. And so it's not...
It hasn't withstood the tests of time.
And won't withstand.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the things that have lasted from generations to generations is because they're good enough to keep.
Yep. Yeah, they're good, they're true, and they're beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And then they get passed on.
But a lot of things now are
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm. And that, I think this... So here's note number 2 that goes along with it. It's on the next page. I don't know if it's going to be on the next page in yours, but it's going to be the one that says, in music, dress, food.
Okay, got it.
Okay. In music, dress, food, books, entertainment, and the powers that be, in those things, the powers that be cater to the undisciplined who want to stay that way. The central sin of pulp culture is therefore a sin of omission. It displaces true culture. It does not itself adequately perform the functions of a culture, and sinners in a fallen world need to have the functions of a culture performed. Pop culture is a culture which does not enculturate, a culture which does not discipline. It is therefore an oxymoronic culture. In a biblical culture, a man expects his great-grandchildren to read what he has read, sing what he has sung, listen to what he has listened to. In an evanescent culture like the one that surrounds us, a man expects to have all his cultural experiences buried with him. In the year 2525, do you think anyone will have heard of that dumb song? So, yeah, that's just more of the same. And that chapter is good about what we pass on. And that ties into, then, what model of education you choose. Like... when you homeschool kids, or when kids are in a Christian school or whatever, like that system, whatever it is going to be passing on a body of knowledge to them. And is it a body of knowledge that's been received and tested through time, or is it Billy is really a Sally with a Willie or something, like, like when we teach kids all sorts of crazy stuff. Insert generic complaining about public schools. Okay, right here. And so really the homeschool is where this thing about passing on culture, like the great books, and by great books I don't mean like literally the set that's called the great books.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean like the just great classic works of literature. And not just the ones that people say are classics, but ones that are meritorious for their own right. Mm-hmm. Not snobbish books, but passing on the great books or great music or great art, what is beautiful, what is true, what is good. Here it is. Kids, eat it and be full and go make more people.
Make more people and teach them what is good and true and beautiful.
Yep. Right. That's all that I've got. Any particular note from this time that's your favorite? Probably the war crimes one, I'm guessing.
Oh yeah, that one was
we
my
can
favorite.
agree. Yeah, we can agree.
That one went through all 3 episodes.
Yep. And it finally found its conclusion here.
I hope you guys were as excited about it as we were.
Yep. I don't think there's any other... Do you have any other thoughts about the book in general? Would you read it again?
Yeah, I would read it again.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I would read it again.
I think I would.
I might read a part of it again.
Oh, yeah.
Like that culture part.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably read that again. But I can't... I don't think I... Oh, I would probably... I can see reading the culture, that chapter, whatever that one was called. Was that... that was in Contempt for the Cool.
Yeah, Contempt for the Cool.
I can see reading Contempt for the Cool again, and I can see reading the Dragon Slayers chapter again. Whichever one
Giants, Dragons, and Books.
Yeah, Giants, Dragons, and Books. That was one of my favorites. And then the one here with Contempt for the Cool with culture. Yep. Those are probably my favorite.
I can see myself reading again. Probably not anytime soon.
Sure.
But I can see myself reading again. But I really did like the Giants, Dragons, and Books.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that one a lot. Like you. I liked...
Do you know what you rated it? What would you rate it? I mean, I don't know either, so we could both be wrong and totally flip-flopping.
This is
what
why
we
we
rate.
keep up with our books. I
Just
would
check
say...
on Goodreads for the official rating.
Oh, yeah.
What we say now may or may not agree with what we have said in the past.
I think I rated it a 5 on Goodreads.
I would probably rate it 5.
But on a scale from 1 to 10, I would probably put it at like 8.
9. Yeah. Well, that means you gave it a 4 then. 'Cause that's...
Yeah.
I wanted to say 4, 4.5, 5. I don't know if it is a 5. Maybe it's a 5. It's like a 5 with a winky eye. It's like,
Yeah.
5. I don't know. So that's all we've got. Hopefully we've got another book that you'll enjoy next. If you want to get the book or have it ready for the next book day, we're going to do God Rest Ye Merry by Doug Wilson. And so that'll be a discussion on Christmas and that sort of stuff. So if you want, you can grab that book and follow along with the notes that we have for that next time. But that's all that I've got for you. Any final thoughts, Tim?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay.
Farewell.
I wish you well.